Okay, we can start. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Argo contributors meeting. And usually we have no introductions, but today I see some new faces, at least one. I think, Victor, can you please introduce yourself really quickly?
Oh, I was in a few others, but anyways, my name is Victor. I work for CodeFresh. I don't know, using Argo City mostly rollouts as well.
Welcome. Glad to see you here. And
Thank you.
sure. Is there anyone else who is new to the meeting and didn't have a chance to introduce yourself?
Maybe Shamar?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Me. So, hello everyone. I'm Shama. I work with Intuit and I joined the Argo team recently.
Welcome. Okay, so I think we can move on to our agenda. So let me quickly share my screen, and I hope you can see it. I will try to make it bigger. So we didn't really have too many topics for today's meeting, but there was one important topic. It's about 1.8 testing process. And I think it's kind of perfect timing because I think we're pretty much done. Like, most of the bugs and enhancements for 1.8 release are completed. And I feel like we can start testing. And I was just going to propose kind of a process which we can use to test and discuss, what are we going to do during that period of time. So the kind of two very simple proposals. One is try to avoid making big code changes into the master branch. And so I think we can revise it, even if someone disagrees and wants to work on a new feature in master, just let us know in Slack. But idea that is to, try to stabilize master, make sure it has no showstopper issues. And then once we'll feel it's stable, we can create release branch and resume developing as normal. And it is going to just simplify our life, because if we fix bugs and work on major features of 1.8 release, 1.9 release, that means we have to create release branch right now and then cherry pick each and every fix. Or we can simply kind of pause for around 4 days, fix all the bugs, create release branches later, but it will save time on cherry picking issues.
I'm all for feature freeze as well. So
yeah,
and I think that's what we were doing in all previous releases. But the main difference is that we had way less contributors, so it was very easy to coordinate. So now I think that might means that, if someone do not participate in bug fixing and working on a feature, you might have to keep working for a while for several days in your dev branch, but it can benefit.
a quick suggestion to make it easy to convey that to folks who open PRs would be if you could add labels to a PR about which version that could potentially go in, that would be easier for folks to understand that, hey, this is not something that the maintainers think would be scheduled to go in for 1.8 or 1.9.
Okay, yeah, that's a good suggestion. So if we decide to just kind of put this on hold until 1.8 testing is complete, label will make it easy to understand.
wouldn't the milestone be sufficient?
Yeah, I think that's what implied, kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
milestone.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so looks like everyone agrees. Cool. And then testing itself. So I was going to propose a very casual way to kind of coordinate testing. I just created a spreadsheet, and it's pretty much the same thing which we were doing before. It worked for like several contributors. Hopefully it can scale to more. But the idea that we simply create a spreadsheet which has list of bug fixes and features and all kind of user-facing improvements. And that list is based on just a Git log. And I kind of manually went through all the changes in Git and then get rid of all noise. So no documentation changes, no internal refactorings, no kind of non-user facing changes. And it's a little bit, kind of sorted by change type. So we had around 50, like even more than 50 features in this release and same number of bug fixes, which is a lot. So yeah, and the proposal here is to kind of, if you want to help with testing, just add your name in one of these columns. And then we kind of use these, here is the small legend of the marks you can put into each column here. So if you think it looks good, just put this checkbox. If you found something wrong, then just put cross mark and add a comment. And this is like, it's not formal at all. Basically, it just helps to others to understand what is happening with that issue. And, and I guess if you find that something is not right, sometimes it's much easier to just go ahead and send pull request to fix it, because typically we find kind of minor things which were missed, like maybe missing documentation, or you can simply file a bug and assign, put it into milestone. And then, just.
Can we maybe have another indicator like W for work in progress, or so that someone can mark a given issue as he's gonna or they're gonna test it, so that we not that 10 people accidentally pick the same issue and 10 people test it?
I think it's maybe a good idea. So you're saying kind of try to split testing work instead of, yeah, I think it's.
No, yeah, just like an indicator on which issues someone is gonna testing, so that not everyone is testing the same issue, but so you can reserve it for yourself or indicate that you will test it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but kind of as a heads up, I feel like I'm going to, so there are two kind of reasons to do the testing. First is to verify that feature is working. And then second is to kind of just get familiar with it, because I personally, I wasn't even aware of some of these changes. So like personally, I will go for all of them, no matter what, like no matter, just to know what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. But I feel like this indicator is still useful, because if I see it, maybe I will spend less time, verifying it. I will just briefly take a look, make sure I understand what the feature means. So I agree. I mean, I feel like it's useful.
Okay.
Kind of that indicator will help to decide, how deep we should verify that feature. I think we should just agree that we put that indicator if you really kind of trying to test the feature. If you just look at it closely, then don't put that indicator. So yeah, I agree with that suggestion. Let me just add it right now. W sounds good.
Yeah,
Forward.
sounds good.
And I think the assumption would be that the corresponding GitHub issue would have enough details on what the acceptance criteria is for features which are not very obvious to the one who's testing it out. And if not, we should probably just ask each other, is this good enough? Or we should go ahead and then use it as a feedback to ensure that next time somebody works on a PR, there is a good enough acceptance criteria in the PR itself or with the associated issue to ensure that whoever is reviewing the PR or later on testing it knows what exactly they should be looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree as well. Yeah, I think it's this exercise itself is going to be kind of a learning exercise because we'll know, what we did wrong in this iteration, and yeah, we can use it in the next one.
Sure.
Okay, and all right, about access. For now, I just made this document, just open, like I provided right access to the whole world. I think it's okay. Like I don't think people are going to,
What we could do is we could give like edit access to almost every known contributor within this call and everybody we know, just to be on the safe side, and open it up for comments to the whole world. Which means if somebody wants to, come in and also add a column to their name and, update details, at the very least, they should be able to communicate that intent by adding a comment, say, hey, I want to test as well. May I have edit privileges? And then we could grant that person. So
okay,
that'll be a bit safer, I think.
Okay, yeah, it's not difficult to do. So I'm going to, send like open access to everyone in that meeting right after the meeting, as soon as meeting is done. Yeah, and then if I miss someone, just Slack me or add a comment here. Yeah, and I will try to keep an eye on all the comments in this document. Okay, and let me put a link to the document in chat, if I could find the chat. Oh, okay. And yes, and it will be in meeting agenda. Thank you. Okay, I think that sounds good. That's all I had about testing. And if there are no other questions, we can move on to the next topic in the agenda. Yes, and basically this, we spoke about it during last meeting. So William Tam proposed to brainstorm about a big feature, I guess, of 1.8, 1.9 release, which Red Hat team can pick up and work independently. And it would be much better if we do some homework. Admittedly, I didn't have time to work on it, and I think we had brief discussion with JC, so it's going to be literally brainstorming now. Yeah, so, and we had kind of two ideas. One was application set. So this is a project that we develop. The work is going on right now already in the background, and we were planning to work on it in 1.9 release. So, and the idea of application set project is to solve application management problem in Argo CD. And the second idea, I think Jan is most aware of that feature. So the idea is to support application syncing orchestration in Argo CD using sync CRD. So, and this feature is about, let's say if you have a cluster and that cluster managed by 10 Argo CD applications, sometimes there are dependencies between applications. For example, one application manages all CRDs inside of that cluster, and second application rely on those CRDs. In this case, you might want to execute sync in a predefined order. And right now in Argo CD, there is kind of no good way to express that dependencies between applications. So these are kind of two things which kind of came to our mind. And it seems like both features are pretty much independent and from each other. So they could be done in parallel. Plus each such feature, it includes UI, backend. So yeah, I think it qualifies to be a big feature for a team. Any thoughts about it, JC?
Yes. So from my point of view, I'd be glad if someone else would pick that, because I think currently it's laying at my table, but yeah, I don't have that much time to work on it because it really requires some time also for the design phase and stuff like that.
Okay. And
Sorry, by
I think
that you mean which one? Jan, sorry.
second.
The application dependencies, like, or the sync set basically, so that you
upper lip.
In me?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, microphone is on.
Yeah, I think yes, I think those.
Okay, so Jan, you're saying you haven't had time to work on the sync job.
right, and I probably won't have that much time anyway. So if it should make it in 1.1.9, so I'm not sure if I'll have all the time to drive it.
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify, I think this topic came in response to William's proposal. So William Tam mentioned during last meeting that he is looking for something, for a big feature. So if any you think that, William and maybe Jonathan, people from Red Hat could pick that feature. So it's basically...
I think one note about app sets is that there's actually the primary person working on it is actually from Red Hat, Devin Goodwin. And I thought that one was actually, might be a good one for Red Hat because actually I feel like you might be able to coordinate much better with the person who's primarily working on it.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, to be very honest, I'm more familiar with the application sets conversation than the other one. So I could have, folks at Red Hat with William and other folks have that being driven. So yeah, I'm happy to go for that. Unless, Jan, do you want us to go for the other one, which is also fine, but I just haven't got a lot of chance to understand what exactly.
Yeah, I think the application set of is the more valuable feature.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we've been trying to press internally. We've had push to use it for some time. We haven't had time to work on it and make sure it's integrated.
Sure, I think then so be it. Let's go for app sets in that case.
Okay.
Awesome.
And if someone feels like he wants to pick up the application sync job, so that'd be fine as well. But otherwise, so maybe I can pick it up later.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. If we can add that to the milestone, I'm sure it's already there in the milestone. If you could point folks towards it, then if there is bandwidth, folks should pick up. It could be purely by Red Hat, or it could be a mix of other folks as well. So
yeah, and I will have time to contribute at least my ideas and guidance. So
I'll say we won't commit to the app sync job for the next milestone. It was just an idea for as a bigger term project because it will actually require UI and API and controller work like that. But I'm not saying that we should try and make that for 1.9. It was just an idea as a big work item.
Got it. Okay. I think sounds good to me. We could probably do some homework on application sets in general on how the work distribution, where it stands, ensure that everybody in the team is aware of it, and then we could go.
Yeah, I think one of the things that still needs to be thought out is so as a resource object and a controller, I think it seems pretty well understood. But then how that experience translates into the Argo, server Argo UI, how how they involve with projects. That part is still kind of hasn't been ironed out, and I think there's some a lot of thought that needs to go into that. So that's why.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's not just
Mhm.
getting the CRD and the controller in it, but I think the next, I mean, I think there's been enough work that's been done to ensure that it works independently. We just need to figure out how it can become part of the bigger story.
Right,
and
right.
technically a part of Argo CD itself, like not just
Yeah,
in
yeah, that's
principle,
the
but technically as well.
yeah, yeah. So
Got
basically the application sets is the work item is how do we integrate that with Argo CD now that the
Got it.
controller has been.
Got it.
Yeah. So someone asked the name of the Red Hat contributor. That's Devin Goodwin. I'll link to his GitHub in chat.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess that's
This
we have reached the end of today's agenda. Yeah, so we have still 30 minutes, and yeah, we can use it. There was some background noise. Okay, we can use it to discuss, any questions you have.
Yeah, I had a quick topic which I'd like to just bring up, and this is more of a very ad hoc one. So I think one thing that we should probably aim for, and we could figure out how to plan that well, is that if we could have enough E2E tests, or in a more UI world, Selenium-like tests, to ensure that we group every feature into a scenario, so that like the goal should be everything that the team is going to test now on that spreadsheet. Eventually, there is an E2E test for it. And it doesn't have to be a 1:1 mapping, but we should be able to, in a couple of releases, be able to map everything being manually tested to an existing test, which gives us enough confidence. Or in other words, if somebody, let's say in a couple of releases from now, if somebody didn't test one of those features manually, would we get a good sleep while we do a release? They ensure that we have an automated test with a significant level of confidence for all the scenarios that we have, so that we don't necessarily have to have manual testing for everything. Pretty sure that it's going to take us a while to get there, of course, but then the goal should be we should be able to have a smaller subset of tests which we do manually, but a bigger subset that gets run every time on every PR maybe, or it could be on a cron or something, to ensure that while we are testing these issues, we're definitely not going to be testing a lot of other features. And we just need to be okay that there are tests that with certain level of confidence to ensure that there's also no regression of the issues or the features in the past, or of these features that we are not going to test again in a couple of releases from now.
Yeah, that's fair, and especially about UI E2 automated E2E tests, and Kate already started implementing it basically, and I think so. He's working on a smoke test, which is kind of, it's not real, like it's not E2E test in terms of it does not test any particular feature, but I think it's going to be a kind of foundation for E2E tests.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
and
with some initial investment on it, the goal should be, so I think the goal should be with some initial investment on it, every new PR that goes in, without making the barrier for entry too high, we should be able to ask for an E2E test associated with it. That could be affixed to an existing E2E test or an independent test to ensure that we not only have features going in, but we have a test which is significantly powerful enough to give us confidence that we can entirely skip the manual test in a couple of releases from now. I mean, it could be an aim. We don't have to get to it, but it could be an aim that we could keep.
Yeah, I feel like I totally agree. And the main barrier right now is that we don't even have any infrastructure for UI E2E testing. I think we should try to kind of, as soon as we have it, then we should start asking for E2E tests for new PRs.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, got it.
And then maybe it makes sense to have a ticket for that. I will create it. Right now we have just the smoke test ticket, but I guess we can create ticket to create very first E2E test which verifies UI, and that will make sure, you know, we have kind of infrastructure in place.
Yes, and to quickly add to that, so I think in a couple of releases from now, we should still have a spreadsheet which has all the scenarios listed. There should be a column to say, is there an E2E test for it? If there is a yes, we potentially don't have to invest a lot of time in retesting it manually. And I'm pretty sure not every scenario will have an E2E test, to be very practical. And probably those are the subset of features that folks can concentrate on ensuring that they continue working, even if that feature didn't come in the recent milestone. It might have come 5 milestones back, but it never made into an E2E test yet. So to have the distinction and better tracking of that, we should be able to do that in a couple of releases at least.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, just noticed there was a question. It was back to application set. So JD asking if we're going to have another call about application set.
I could take that if you're okay. So I think, Jaideep, my suggestion would be we should go through the proposal that we have. It's a doc. There is also a repo with working code and everything as a first step, ensure that everyone is up to speed with what work has gone in. And then we should ensure that we work with Devan and actually find out what other plans he had and ensure we should first try to gather all the information that we may not have as a first step. And then the next step would be brainstorm to a level with a proposal of how to integrate it. And I think that will take at least a week, and we should again be back to this meeting. We could add this as an agenda for almost every meeting now if we need to.
There's a community presentation that Michael Goodness did that was a pretty good intro on how they're using app sets. They're doing it obviously manually, applying the resource manually, but it's because it's not integrated in Argo CD. But that should be a good intro of like the use case and current experience.
Yeah, I think you should be able to quickly find that video if you go to a community document and then just search for my goodness, you know, and the most recent mention of him would be a link to that video. Right.
Sounds good. Any other topic we have for the day, or are we wrapping it up early today?
So just a question about the apps that application set. So it sounds like we currently do not have a proposal yet, right? So this is part of the work, part of investigation in terms of that feature. So right now we don't have anything in the GitHub.
We have actually a separate controller and working implementation, and I think MLB might actually be running it in production. So the missing piece is that we've developed it independently, the application set controller, with the eventual goal of it being merged into Argo CD core. What hasn't been figured out is what is that experience like if someone wants to manage application sets through the Argo UI, and what is that experience like? And so some considerations has to be done, like with you know, here's one. Application sets lets you templatize an application, and one of the things that you can templatize is what project the application will ultimately be in. So what that implies is that app sets may not be kind of bound to a project, unlike just regular applications, because the whole point of app sets is that you can templatize all kinds of your app. So if app set is not bound to a project, what is the multi-tenancy story about that? Because projects has been our unit of multi-tenancy. And so there's a whole kind of
set of
I guess
open
thought and
questions.
things have to
Right.
be considered about.
Got it. Yeah.
And one more comment about implementation. So there is working implementation, but I think it's maybe like 50% of everything which was planned to be done.
Right.
There is still a lot of development work, in the separate repository to get it to stable state. Yes.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, there's a lot
everything related to Git is not. I think it's right now kind of mocks mostly.
Yeah, so I think in general, we need to ensure that we have a good understanding of what's in the proposal and what's implemented. And now the next step is primarily how do we make it part of the Argo series story as a more first-class experience.
That's right.
Than what it was now.
Right.
So I think, William, to your point, there is a proposal, there is an implementation which is independent, but what is not well flushed out and that needs to be done is how does it look like? How would it look like when it's considered to be part of Argo CD itself? That needs work primarily. The independent bits are fairly there, I would say.
Okay, sounds good.
I think here is linked to the proposal, but I think we can find out it later in more details in Slack.
Okay.
That same doc is linked in the GitHub repo. So if I link you to the GitHub repo, you'll also get to the docs.
Oh, so can ask if you mind? Can you also paste the link to the spreadsheet you have earlier about testing? I didn't.
Yes.
I didn't join earlier. Great, thanks.
Here it is. I will repeat. I will move all these links to the meeting document right after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think if we don't have any other.
So on the spreadsheet, on the spreadsheet you have like a X, Y, and V. Was that what it was supposed to mean? I heard about the W as work in progress, but what's X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, there is. In column K, there is kind of short explanation. So idea that V means it's like a checkbox, it looks good. X means an issue found, and W is kind of just an indicator for everyone that you are working on it. And yeah, question is not sure. It's like so.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
So for the testing, we'll just be coming up with like use cases and scenarios just out of our own instincts, right? I guess if there's no real like formal way to proceed with that. That's what I'm assuming. Is that?
Yes, exactly. So that's I'm pretty much repeating, but the idea is not to. I feel like we should assume that each and every feature already tested, and unless it's UI changed, there must be either unit test or E2E test. So we have good set of automation tests for backend at least, but still idea is to go through all these changes and make sure they all kind of make sense together. For example, some backend change might be totally fine by itself, but someone else in parallel worked on this other change, and together these two features breaking some use case. So it's not even about functional correctness, but this is to make sure that user experience is still good. And plus, it's kind of an exercise for everyone to get familiar with 1.8 release and understand what did we do during the last couple of months.
Yeah, thanks.
So okay, seems like we can wrap up early today if there are no additional topics.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye. Good day.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you,
Bye
Alex.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.